You know that piece of paper you get on your first day at a new job? The Form W-4? Yeah, it can look a little intimidating, but it's actually not that bad. In this explainer, we're going to demystify it completely and show you how to fill it out like a pro.
Oh, we've all been there, right? Tax season rolls around and suddenly you owe the IRS a chunk of money you weren't expecting. Or maybe you get this massive refund check. And while that feels kind of nice, think about it. That's just an interest-free loan you gave the government all year long. Well, your W-4 is the key to getting that number just right.
So, what is this thing really? Simply put, the Form W-4 is just an instruction manual. You're telling your employer, hey, based on my personal situation, this is how much federal income tax you should pull out of my paycheck. That's all it is. You are the one in the driver's seat. And this is the big trade-off, right? The fundamental choice you're making. If you tell your employer to withhold less tax, your paychecks are bigger all year long. The downside, you might get a smaller refund, or you might even owe money when you file your taxes. On the flip side, if you have more tax withheld, your take-home pay is smaller, but you're much more likely to get a nice refund. The trick is finding that sweet spot that feels right for you and your money.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to walk through this piece by piece. We'll do a quick recap, then dive into step 1 for the personal basics. After that, we'll tackle step 2 for anyone with multiple jobs. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of steps 3 and 4 for adjustments. And finally, we'll hit the easiest part, signing and submitting.
All right, let's dive right in with step 1. This is the part everybody has to fill out, and honestly, it's the easy stuff. This is just your personal information. So you're just going to pop in your name, address, and social security number. Simple enough. But then you get to your filing status. This is a big deal. Are you single? Married filing jointly? Head of household? Your choice here sets the stage for how much tax gets calculated, so you want to pick the status you plan on using for your actual tax return. And get this. This is probably the best news you'll hear all day. If you're single, you only have one job, and your tax life is pretty straightforward, you might already be done with the hard part. Steps 2, 3, and 4 are totally optional, so if they don't apply to you, you can literally just jump right to the end, to step 5. How easy is that? Okay, but what if your situation isn't that simple? Let's talk about step 2. This section is really for you if you have more than one job at the same time, or if you're married and filing jointly and your spouse also works. It's super important for making sure your household pays enough tax on your combined income. You've got 3 choices here. Option A is, hands down, the best way to go. Seriously, the IRS's online tool at irs.gov/W4 app is a lifesaver, and it's by far the most accurate. Option B is a manual worksheet, and option C is just a simple checkbox. But that one only really works if there are exactly 2 jobs in the house with similar pay. Little pro tip here, just use the online tool. It takes the guesswork out of everything. Okay, and this is super important, so listen up. The IRS gives a crucial piece of advice. If both you and your spouse are filling out W-4s, you only want to do the detailed adjustments, the stuff in steps 3 and 4 that we're about to cover, on one of those forms. And the best way to do that? Put all those details on the W-4 for whichever one of you has the higher paying job. Trust me, it makes things way more accurate. All right, moving on to steps 3 and 4. This is where you get to really fine-tune everything. This is where you can tell your employer about things like kids or other credits and deductions to get your withholding dialed in perfectly. Now, first things first, step 3 isn't for everybody. It's for claiming dependents, and it's got an income limit. You only fill this part out if your income is under $200,000 as a single filer or under $400,000 if you're married filing jointly. If your income's higher than that, no worries. You just skip this step and move on. Okay, so the math here is pretty simple. You take every qualifying child you have under age 17 and multiply that number by $2,200. Then, if you have any other dependents, maybe a child in college or an elderly relative you support, you multiply that number by $500. Add those 2 totals together and put that final number right on the line for step 3. Step 4 is for a few other tweaks. Line 4A is for other income. Money you're making that isn't having taxes taken out, like from interest or a side hustle. Line 4B is the opposite. It's for deductions you expect to take, like for student loan interest. This will lower your withholding. And finally, 4C is a great catch-all. If you just want a little extra taken out to be safe, you can tell your employer to withhold an extra flat dollar amount every single payday. Okay, so when you look at the actual form, you might see it mentioning these worksheets for the more complicated steps. Don't panic. You don't have to be a math whiz. These are just optional tools to help you figure out the numbers. And most importantly, you do not give them to your employer. They're just for you, for your own records.
And just like that, we've made it to the finish line. Step 5 is the final step, and believe me, it is the easiest one of all. It's time to make it official.
All you have to do is sign and date it, and you really have to sign it. An unsigned W-4 isn't valid. Once that's done, you just give it to your HR or payroll person, and you are all set. See? Not so bad. All right, so let's do a quick rundown of the big takeaways. First, the W-4 is just your way of telling your employer how much tax to take out. Second, remember to update it anytime you have a big life change, getting married, having a baby, a new job, you name it. Third, if things get complicated, that IRS online estimator is your secret weapon. And finally, spending just a few minutes getting this form right can save you from a huge headache or a surprise bill come tax time. So that leaves us with one final question. And this one's for you. After all this, take a look at your own situation. Do you want bigger paychecks now, or would you rather have a bigger refund later? Now that you understand how this thing works, you have the power to make sure your W-4 is actually doing what you want it to do for your financial goals.